Intellectual property of a corporation, trademarks, patents, copyrights, other types of intellectual property. What does it mean? How, as a business owner, should we approach the task of understanding and protecting our intellectual property? Hi and welcome back again, me Eugene from CBES, Canadian Business and Enterprise Services. And today I would like to cover this topic and provide a little bit of clarity and maybe explanation on how we as business owners should approach the understanding of intellectual property and of course protecting different types of intellectual property. And today we'll talk about the basics, what it is, how to identify it, and what is the value of it. And then we'll talk about trademarks. I'll leave copyright and patents for some other opportunity to introduce and explain. So as our business grows, it generates different types of assets, which usually we approach them from the perspective of tangible or intangible assets. And tangible assets are easy to understand, those physical assets that we use to develop our business, to produce our products or provide our services. Usually it will include building where our operations are located, equipment that we use to produce our products or provide our services, inventory. In many cases we might have millions of dollars of inventory on our warehouses that we use for future distribution among our clients. Vehicles, sometimes used by our employees to deliver products or inventory, sometimes used by our employees to travel from home to work. All these assets are physical. We can touch them, we can see them, we can assess them, appraise them, and get their price in a relatively easy way. On the other side, our business will also generate intangible assets, non-physical assets, many of which are well known to us. Is just we have to understand and approach them properly. So our business name in many cases might become a very valuable asset, the name of our business. And please do not confuse it with a trademark that provides the protection for the name of our service or product, and I will talk about it in detail shortly today. And patent, our innovation, that we've created and we protect it and defend it, and in many cases there are companies that their patents portfolio would worth millions and millions of dollars. And if you think about it, universities, they're one of the biggest patent portfolios holders in the world, and that is one of their main sources of income. Reputation, in many cases reputation might become a valuable asset that we would like to protect and prevent other people from using, abusing, or damaging. So why do we want to protect our intellectual property? Just to summarize, in many cases value of intellectual property might outpace the value of the company and of its other assets. Think about companies like Kodak, like BlackBerry, like Nokia, those that many people think do not exist anymore or questionable what do they do. But many of these companies have sold their names, trademarks, patents for millions and millions of dollars, creating additional income to their shareholders, owners, or covering their liabilities. Working remotely, we want to protect our intellectual property that becomes more substantial in its value, especially when many businesses transition into remote working and technically staying with very limited amount of physical assets, and on the other side, growing substantially their intangible assets. E-commerce. Think about Amazon store that might exist on Amazon, eBay, some other platforms. All they would have is their name, their trademark, the name of their products or services. Many of them wouldn't even have a warehouse because Amazon would provide them with the fulfillment services. So these companies mainly exist in the non-physical realm, hence increasing the value of non-physical intangible assets. There are some additional considerations that we should keep in mind, and that is loss of intellectual property or being unable to protect it anymore might create substantial problems, losses, and sometimes even damage the existence of our businesses. If we do not protect our property on time, in real time, on the proper matters, we can lose the ability to protect it in the future, the ability to continue growing its value, and then we just lose what we had grown and up until now. As the business operations become more and more internationalized, do not have borders anymore. I can sell my product that eventually will then end up in any country in the world without me knowing or not knowing it. And definitely with the ease of movement between countries, many businesses should consider their intellectual property from the perspective of protecting it in the future when we want to move into other markets and expand our operations to new countries. We want to make sure that our trademark, our copyright, our patents are protected there as well. That's why it is so important to understand the whole scope of intellectual property and its protection. So now let's talk about the first and probably the most popular type of intellectual property, and that is trademark. So first of all, let's see what could be trademarked. We can trademark a name, any name of your product or service. We can trademark a shape, which is a logotype usually, and there's a new type of trademark. We can also trademark a sound. So different types of sounds, music, nature sounds, or something that you've created specifically and is attached to your product. So think about it as when you hear a sound, would it be associated in your perception with certain product? The moment it does, that should be trademarked in order to protect other people from using the same sound, because I can insert it in my advertising or commercials to draw attention of your customers to my products. What we have to keep in mind is the difference between the company name and the product name though. While company name has its own protections, the trademark doesn't actually protect the company name. Trademark is intended to protect the service or product that we sell to our customers and has its name attached to each of them. Think about Microsoft. Technically and theoretically, if it wouldn't use its Microsoft name next to each of its product, like Excel, Word, Explorer, and it will leave it without Microsoft attached to it, it might come to a position where the Microsoft itself wouldn't be trademarkable, and only the actual word attached to the product or service would be able to get trademarked. So it's a bit of confusing, but if you want your company to be trademarked, use it on every product you sell. Attach it to the logo or to the packaging of your product. If you don't want your company to be trademarked, or if you don't need it, if your products are already sold under a different name, use that name to trademark and protect. So what are basic conditions required to protect the trademark, to even identify it? First of all, it must be unique, of course. We can protect trademark that doesn't confuse with already existing trademarks or names on the market. It must be in use. There is no value for the public in protection of theoretical trademarks. You have to use it on an ongoing basis in order to be able to protect it, especially approaching the renewal of trademark, and I'll talk about it shortly. Non-confusing. So it's similar to unique, but they're different aspects of these two considerations. In many cases, you would come to a position, a situation where you protect trademark which already exists. It's just attached to a different type of products or services that there's no confusion. Think about me producing toilet paper and wanting to call it Apple. No one will actually confuse it with Apple Inc., iPhones, and whatever they produce. So sometimes we will be able to protect a trademark that sounds the same or looks the same like others, but is attached to a different non-confusing products. And of course, there are certain exceptions. Usually your personal name, geographical areas will not be able to trademark, and it's understandable. Registration. It is important to understand the limitation on registration. And first of all, geographical limits. Every trademark is registered only in the country where the registration is done. So it will be limited to the geographical area of that country. And if you plan to develop your business into international realm, working in different countries, it is smart and prudent to start registering your trademark in all those countries where you intend to go. And as soon as possible, because the moment I've registered that trademark in relation to a similar product in the other country, you won't be able to use it there. Expiry. Trademarks expire, usually 5 or 10 years depending on the jurisdiction. They're renewable, but you have to follow up. If you forget to renew, you might lose an opportunity to protect your trademark in the future. And eventually, when you approach the renewal, as I told you, you have to prove that you still use the trademark. You will have to provide a picture of your packaging, flyers, advertising, commercials, website that you continue to use the trademarks. The cost. The initial registration usually includes from the actual trademark fee that you pay to the government agency. It's about $500 to $1,000 depending on the jurisdiction again, and you will pay between $2,000 to $3,000, sometimes $4,000 depending on the complexity of registration to your trademark agent. Of course, the more regions you want to include, there are different international treaties that will help you, but it will increase the cost of the registration, probably not multiplied mathematically, but definitely will increase. Renewals cost a little bit less, but usually the same like a new trademark, because you have to supply almost the same scope of documents and proceed with the same process. So once you've registered your trademark, what do you want to do now? First of all, protect your trademark from the breach. Every time you identify someone using your trademark, you must act. If you don't act for a certain period of time, I can say that you agreed to me using the trademark. And continue using your trademark. The moment you stopped using it, you technically forfeit the right to protect the trademark. You cannot hold it without using it in connection to the product or service that is being offered by you. So that's all about trademarks and intellectual property generally today. Thank you for being with me today. Me, Eugene from CBES, Canadian Business and Enterprise Services. As usual, subscribe, leave your comments in the comment section below, and if you have particular questions about your business or operations, better send an email so you do not disclose all this information to everyone. And I hope to see you soon with some new topics that we'll come up with, or you will suggest us to record the video for. Thank you again, and bye-bye.